How to ace an interview. Okay, well, I am not a magician, so I can't actually guarantee that you'll get that job, but I can give you some suggestions and steps to hopefully help you get there. So I've been doing interviews for a while, me as someone looking for a job and also someone trying to hire someone. And one thing that I think everyone should remember is that interviewing is a skill in itself. It does take practice and it does take hard work. Just because you're bad at an interview or that you didn't get the job does not make you a bad hire. And just because you're good at interviewing and you get the job doesn't make you a good hire. So keep that in mind and let's get started. All right, I've got 6 recommendations here. And the first one is to use the job description as your guide and the company website or the job website, wherever you're getting this information from, because that is your prompt, right? That should tell you what exactly you're looking for so you can start thinking about relevant experiences to bring up or relevant answers to the behavioral questions that you're going to get. Also, look at the company's website if they have it. Really understand their mission. What is the company about? What do they care about? Because they're gonna look for that in you. And what's even better is knowing what their values are. One, just to make sure you're aligned with them and this is something that you actually want, but also that could be another criteria that they're looking for. For example, you might have a company that's looking for people to be entrepreneurial and like raising their hand and always coming up with ideas. Well, that is important because if you come off in the interview as someone who doesn't, go the extra mile or think of the company as your own, or if you don't have any relevant experiences to bring up that can tie back to that, they might say that, oh, maybe this person isn't the right fit. We're looking for someone with more of an entrepreneurial spirit. So check it out, use it as your guide as you start brainstorming and preparing for this interview. 2 is practice the tell me about yourself. Even if they don't ask you, have this ready. And there are a couple rules to follow here. 1, don't just repeat your resume. 2, keep it concise, short, and sweet. And 3, use this to your advantage. All right, so number 1 is not reciting your resume. They have your resume in front of you, most likely. And even if they don't, just saying, oh, well, in the year this, I started this, and then I transitioned to this, and then after that, I did this. It's not really compelling and you can lose your listener. It is relevant to talk about your experiences and maybe what you've learned and the impact you made, but just be really cognizant of the story that you're trying to tell. Now, the second one is to keep it concise, short, and sweet. Don't ramble on for 5 minutes. I would say 1 to 2 minutes is probably a good start for you to practice and be able to condense it to something. Also, when I say concise, I mean concise. Every single word should matter, every single word should count, and there should be a reason why you're talking about it, right? If you are gonna walk through an experience and you go through a company's history or what the company is about, it would be good to level set, but I wouldn't spend 30 seconds talking about what a company is all about because they might not care, right? They care about what you've done and the impact that you've made. So make sure you time yourself and make sure it's a reasonable amount of time that can really tell your story, get the listener invested and excited to learn more about you. And then the third bullet point of that is to use this to your advantage. You have the floor. You don't know and you can't control what questions they ask you, but you can control what you want to tell them. Show yourself off and make yourself shine. Tell us what sets you apart. Put in some personality in there. You can really pull out things that you really want the interview to know, that like demonstrate your skill set or show how awesome of a person you are. This is the time to talk about it and really showcase your abilities, because there's a chance that they might not ask you the right question where you have like the most amazing experience or story to tell. but now is your opportunity. So use it to your advantage and go get them. All right, the third recommendation is to brainstorm scenarios ahead of time. Most likely you're going to have behavioral questions where they might ask you, tell me about a time where you had to come up with an idea, or tell me about a time you had a conflict with a coworker. Tell me about a time you led an initiative. There's a lot of these and you can look it up online. There are going to be a lot of examples. What I would recommend is really start brainstorming scenarios. This is the time to really think of a really compelling story and something that really showcases your talent and is a really great example that might knock their socks off. And as you're doing that, you can practice the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, result. What was the situation? What was your task? What was the action that you took to, assess or react or accomplish something? And at the end, what was the result? Probably something positive, if you're going to use this example. Moral of the story is you can be prepared for this. Look up scenarios, think and brainstorm, write down some really good prime examples of what you did the last time you had a conflict, or what's the last thing that you did that no one asked of you. It really showed how you can think outside the box. The fourth recommendation is to review what you've done in the past. So it's one thing, I know you have your resume and you kind of write down like the things that you've done and accomplished, but also really go back and think, okay, what are some examples of projects that I've done? The reason why I think it's important to review and reflect your experiences is that memory can be hard. And especially during your interview where you're probably nervous, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to recall the specific details of your experience that you want to convey. And when you take the time to kind of write down, you can ensure that you don't miss on anything that's really relevant or important to the story. And you also can take the time to really think through how you want to communicate this, because communication is always very important. If you have an amazing experience, but you're not able to convey it well, then it's not going to get across. Another little tidbit that I would add here is when you're at your current job, take a moment and remember to write down the things that you've done and the things that you've accomplished. Take the time to not only, celebrate your wins, but also this can just really help you in the future when you want to look back and say, okay, what have I done in the past and what can I really bring into this interview to show how amazing of a candidate I am? This leads me to the next recommendation, which is one of the most important ones of all, which is number 5, is practice, practice, and practice. So now that you know what this job is about, what they're looking for, practice telling them about yourself, practice the scenarios, practice walking through your experience. And if you can, get a friend, talk it through, because sometimes you don't know if you're rambling. Sometimes you don't know if your story is confusing. Someone up here can help you with that, improve your skills. You can also use a camera like I'm doing right now. Talk to yourself and record. I know it can be weird, but trust me, it'll be so helpful because you really hear yourself and kind of improve on that. You might notice things like a lot of ums and kind ofs and or you'll hear yourself tell the story and be like, that's not really interesting, or what am I trying to say? So I would really recommend that you practice, 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 practice makes perfect. My last recommendation is to have questions ready. I can't tell you how many times at the end of an interview, I would ask the candidate, oh, so do you have any questions for me? And they would be like, no. Or they would just have one question like, what's the culture like? It's super important because one, it shows that you're actually interested in the company. I have had interviews where I was kind of on the fence, but the candidate asked such great questions that it really saved the interview. So really prepare for it and have some meaty things to ask the interviewer. Also, an interview is a two-way street. Not only are they trying to see if you would be a good fit for the company, you want to make sure that this is also a fit for you. You want to be happy, you want to grow, you want to have these opportunities. So take this time to really understand what the day-to-day is like. What is the job like? What are your coworkers like? Any questions that you may have to ensure that this is also something that you really and truly want. All right, so now if you have these 6 recommendations, you're going to get that job, the job of your dreams. You're gonna be amazing. You really got this. So just don't forget to practice, prepare, and you know what? All you need to know is you did your best and things will work out if they're supposed to. All right, guys, go get them, ace that interview, and I'll see you next time.